Welcome to Trendix. Broadway came roaring back to life Saturday night with the gruff voice of Bruce Springsteen in a show for vaccinated fans only. It was the first time in more than a year that the lights went up on Broadway, drawing some 1,700 Springsteen fans to the St. James Theater to see the boss in action. But as many celebrated life returning to normal, others were furious at the theater's decision to require proof of vaccination for tickets. About 36 anti-vaxxer protesters gathered outside the St. James Theater to complain they were being discriminated against. Many carried signs saying Bruce Springsteen is for segregation on Broadway, unmasked, unvaxxed, unafraid, vaccine mandates violate bodily autonomy, and my body, my choice, a slogan typically used by pro-abortion rights activists. Some reportedly harassed and shouted at the concertgoers. The New York Times reports, with one man in a pink bandana yelling into a bullhorn, "Welcome to Nazi Germany." Another woman, holding the sign accusing Springsteen of segregation, told the Asbury Park Press, "I think we learned in the 60s that segregating people isn't right. You can't segregate a crowd for medical choices." "Are you going to start separating people who have AIDS or hepatitis?" she asked, rhetorically. Jenny Tam, one of the concertgoers, was waiting in line to see the boss, did not seem fazed by the protests. "Everybody is entitled to their own opinion," she said, but added, "I would think if I'm a performer, I would want the audience vaccinated." Originally, FOX News reported, the theater would only allow patrons who received one of the FDA-approved vaccines, Moderna, Pfizer, or Johnson & Johnson, but after receiving some backlash, the theater agreed to permit patrons who received the AstraZeneca vaccine as well. The theater also made an exception for children under the age of 16, fans with disabilities, and those with sincerely held religious beliefs who would be required to show proof of a negative COVID test to get in. Fans who had received their shots were excited to see the boss in person as the Saturday debut marked the first time in 471 days that a Broadway show opened to the public, after the legendary theater district was closed for a record-setting 15 months due to the pandemic. "It's just epic to have the boss open us back up," Giancarlo Di Masio of Rochester told The Times. "It's big for New York. It's big for arts and culture here. And to have this open up is a sense of normalcy." Many concertgoers lined up on 44th Street for the show, many wearing old Springsteen concert t-shirts and Springsteen face masks. It came as COVID cases in the state have been decreasing throughout the state, with more people receiving COVID vaccines. As of June 25, New York State data shows there were only 385 new COVID cases in the state, for a three-day average of 314. Throughout the country, there were only about 10,000 cases, with the Centers for Disease Control reporting that community spread is moderate. Meanwhile, the number of people receiving a COVID vaccine has increased, with the New York State Department of Health reporting that 59.4% of the total population has received at least one dose, and 52.8% are fully vaccinated. Among adults over the age of 18, that figure is higher, with 71.6% of the population receiving at least one dose and 64.1% being fully vaccinated. And across the country, the CDC reports, 53.8% of Americans have received at least one dose of the vaccine. In May, Governor Andrew Cuomo announced that he would permit Broadway to fully reopen its doors in September, in accordance with the state's health and safety guidelines. Broadway is at the core of our New York identity, and a big part of our economy, which employs countless performers and show creators. And beginning this September, the show will go on, Cuomo said. Visitors from all around the world have come to New York to experience the arts and culture and see iconic performances on Broadway, and sadly, the pandemic put this unique New York experience on pause. Thankfully, as we continue to monitor the data and reopen our economy, we are now on track to allow full-capacity performances on Broadway to resume beginning this September, bringing back this beloved world-famous attraction. Then, earlier this month, Springsteen announced he would reopen his show on June 26, the first one to do so. "I love doing Broadway," he said in a statement, "and I'm thrilled to have been asked to reprise the show as part of the reopening of Broadway. I'm here tonight to provide proof of life." Springsteen started out, reiterating a line from the monologue of his original show, which ran for 236 performances between 2017 and 2018. "That proof," he said, according to the New York Times, "was to that ever-elusive, never completely believable, particularly these days, us," which included 1,721 patrons, such as New Jersey Gov, Phil Murphy and Steven Van Zandt, the guitarist for Springsteen's E Street Band, with very few people wearing masks. "It's been a long time coming," Springsteen said to the crowd after finishing his first song, Growin' Up. In 71 years on the planet, I haven't seen anything like this past year. He spoke about his mom, Adele Springsteen, saying she has had Alzheimer's for the past 10 years, but the need to dance is something that hasn't left her. She can't speak, she can't stand, he continued, but when she sees me there's a smile. He also spoke about the growing civil unrest in the country after a year of Black Lives Matter protests. We are living in troubling times, he said. Certainly not in my lifetime, when the survival of democracy itself, not just who is going to be running the show for the next 4 years, but the survival of democracy itself is deeply threatened. At that point, The Times reports, Springsteen launched into one of his 3 new songs, American Skin, 41 shots about a Guinean immigrant named Amadou Diallo who was fatally shot by New York Police Department officers in 1999. The show, which The Times described as part concert, part comedy, part tragedy, part therapy, based on Springsteen's best-selling autobiography Born to Run, had previously earned the boss a special Tony Award for his performance.